Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Courtside. I'm your host, Andrew Cohen. Courtside is a podcast dedicated to all things sports. In today's episode, I will talk about the MLB Postseason and give a World Series prediction. I will also debut player profiles, talk more about things that don't make sense, and do another segment of sports theory. So sit back, relax, and take a seat. Courtside. Okay, so before I get into the World Series, I just wanted to make this quick announcement. From now on, instead of including my NFL game picks in the podcast every week, I'm going to be putting them exclusively on the Courtside Podcast Twitter page at the Courtside Pod. I believe by putting them exclusively on Twitter, I'll be able to get into more interesting content every week in the podcast. So let's get into the MLB World Series. Alright, so the Boston Red Sox and the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to square off in the World Series beginning on Tuesday, October 23rd. This series features two great teams with some big-time stars on each side. And whether you're a baseball fan or not, I encourage you to watch at least one game in this series. Just one. Because I expect many of these games to be really close and competitive, and I think you guys are going to be missing out if you decide not to watch. Now, as far as my World Series prediction, I have the Boston Red Sox winning this series in 5 games. Now, I know what you're thinking. You just said every game was going to be close and competitive. Yeah, I did just say that. But just because I expect every game to be close doesn't mean the Red Sox can't come out on top in 4 of those. Now, as I look at both these teams and what they've looked like in the playoffs, I have realized that, at least in my opinion, there's actually quite a large discrepancy between the two teams. The Red Sox have played in 2 fewer games than LA, so keep that in mind while I go through all these stats. They've scored 13 more runs than the Dodgers. The two teams have about the same amount of hits, yet the Dodgers, despite having 4 more home runs, have fewer doubles. The Red Sox have 6 more doubles, a higher team batting average, as well as a higher on-base percentage, and a higher slugging percentage. Oh, and by the way, the Dodgers have struck out 50 more times than Boston this postseason, in 2 fewer games. I mean, to me at least, the Dodger offense is not even in the same league as the Red Sox offense. Where the Dodgers do have an advantage, though, is in their pitching. Their team ERA is just about a full point better than the Red Sox, and they've also pitched 2 shutouts in the postseason so far. They're also striking out way more hitters, and the opposing batting average against their staff is much better than the Red Sox. And how about I'll do a little comparison of the 2 closers for each team. Right, for Los Angeles, we have Kenley Jansen, who has given up 0 runs and has struck out 10 in 6 2/3 innings with 3 saves so far. And then for Boston, we have Craig Kimbrell, who, despite being 5 for 5 in save opportunities so far in the postseason, has a 7.11 ERA in 6 1/3 innings. In addition, the final out of every one of his saves has either been a fly ball to the warning track or the Andrew Benintendi diving catch in left field to win game 4 of the ALCS. So it's not like he's shutting down any hitter at the plate really at all. And honestly, for me, I know that I'm having a heart attack every time he takes the mound. It's scary to watch. And then also for the Red Sox, they have Chris Sale, who has maybe been the biggest unknown in all of baseball since he hit the DL in early August with shoulder inflammation. And the last time we saw him, he just did not look like himself. However, everyone else on Boston's pitching staff has been amazing this postseason. David Price finally recorded his first career playoff win as a starter. Guys in the bullpen like Matt Barnes and Ryan Brazier, who everyone was concerned about heading into the playoffs, including myself, they've both pitched their butts off. And then you have Nathan Eovaldi, who was traded for at the trade deadline. All right, starting pitcher. A lot of people were kind of against the move. I liked the move. I just thought they need to add another bullpen arm. But he's looked amazing in his 2 starts. 7 innings against the Yankees, 6 innings against the Astros. He's looking really good. And at the end of the day, I think Boston just has a better overall team. After disposing of the defending World Series champion Houston Astros in just 5 games, I don't expect the Dodgers to be too much of a challenge for them. This week, I'm going to begin another new segment called Player Profiles. In this segment, I'm going to highlight a few players that I just don't think they get enough attention or recognition that they deserve. And this week, I'm going to be highlighting 3 players, and let's get going. All right, we're going to start off with Tariq Cohen. Standing at 5'6" and about 180 pounds, Tariq Cohen may be one of the most underrated running backs in the entire National Football League. Now, disregarding the fact that he and I share a last name, Tariq Cohen was an oversight by many, if not all, NFL scouts at the 2017 NFL Draft. He is quick, elusive, and since the Bears have started using him more in their offense this year, the offense has just looked drastically better than it did prior to his uptick in touches. He's also one of the most efficient rushers in the league, averaging 5.3 yards per carry, and is also on pace to have around 75 receptions and a few touchdowns on the year. If the Bears continue to get him involved, I believe that Chicago has a chance to make a deep playoff run. All right, next up we have Nick Stauskas. Now, to many, he's Nick Stauskas. To me, he's Sauce Castillo. And he actually got that nickname based off a closed captioning error in 2015, if you did not know. That was when he was a rookie in Sacramento. Since then, he is on his third team in about 5 years, and has just kind of really struggled to find a home in the NBA. However, against the Lakers earlier this week, holy cow, did he look confident and comfortable. I mean, he was just pulling up from whenever he wanted, and he looked like he really fit into that Portland offense. And my biggest concern with the Trailblazers coming into the year was their lack of scoring and offensive talent outside of Lillard and McCollum. But if Stauskas can give them some nice scoring off the bench, even if it doesn't have to be 24 points a game, but maybe give them some double digits most games, I think Portland has a chance to make the playoffs in a crowded and competitive Western Conference. All right, and finally here for the last player profile of the week, we have Nathan Peterman. Now, are you a team trying to tank and are looking for the perfect quarterback for your squad? Look no further than Nathan Peterman. With his career 1-3 touchdown to interception ratio, he will almost always throw a pick in a clutch situation. Take this past week against the Texans, for example. With the game tied at 13 and 90 seconds left, Buffalo has the ball, and here's what happens. Yep, you heard that right. A big pick six in the clutch for Nathan Peterman, giving the Houston Texans the win over the Buffalo Bills. Now, anyways, of course, nobody can forget his first career NFL start, where he threw 5 picks in just the first half. And in his 3 career starts, he has 1 touchdown and 7 interceptions. Now, in one of those 3 starts, he actually did manage to throw 0 interceptions. But hold your applause, because they played this game in a blizzard, and Peterman, despite playing the entire game, only threw 10 passes and completed 5 of them for 57 yards. However, I did hear after the game he actually threw a party to celebrate the team's win. However, that party was actually intercepted and returned for a touchdown, so he didn't actually escape the day without throwing a pick. So earlier this week, Markelle Fultz hit his first career NBA three-pointer after battling maybe the weirdest injury in history for all of last season. And this moment actually made me remember that Ben Simmons, still has 0 career three-pointers made and probably won't make a three-pointer until years into his NBA career. And actually, I think we have some audio of what the crowd reaction will be to Ben Simmons' first career three-pointer. Anyways, Simmons said that this past offseason was, quote, the first time in his career that he ever practiced shooting from away from the basket. You know that kid that always says, oh, now it's time to try for real when their team is losing? That's Ben Simmons. Okay, next up, so I'm just sitting there watching a little college football on Saturday, which I rarely do. But I get an alert on my phone and it says, and it reads, this is exactly what it says. Quote, Marlins signed Mesa Brothers. Miami lands top-rated Cuban international free agent Victor Mesa and his brother, Victor Mesa Jr. And that's the end of the alert. I'm like, what? And by the way, their father's name, in case you were wondering, if you couldn't tell, it's Victor Mesa. Now, first of all, to name your kid Victor is ridiculous. But then to have another son named Victor Jr., what? And then on top of all that, the guy naming the kids, his name is Victor. could he have possibly been more unoriginal? I mean, I'm sure if they had a daughter, it would have been named Victoria. Now, I couldn't find the name of the mother. I'm sure it is Victoria Mesa. You never know, but I still can't get over the fact that a guy named his two kids Victor and Victor Jr. This week on Sports Theory, I want to talk about the MLB and its popularity decline. Now, I believe there are a couple of reasons for the decline in attendance and general popularity, and I want to share one of those with you today on Sports Theory. Now, this year we saw a few teams use the opener, which is basically a relief pitcher that starts a game and pitches at most a few innings before turning it over to another reliever. And I just want to get this out of the way. The opener is not a terrible thing for baseball. I actually like that it adds another layer of strategy to the game. But I don't think it should be used as often as the Rays used it this past year. By the end of the season, after trading Chris Archer, the Rays basically only had one legit starter that was going once every 5 days, all-star lefty Blake Snell. On average, the Rays used an opener probably, I would guess, about 3 out of every 5 games. That's what's bad for baseball. Or let's consider the Oakland Athletics, who in the American League wildcard game, their most important game of the entire season, went with an opener, Liam Hendricks, who by the way gave up 2 runs in 1 inning and received the loss. Now, to be fair with the A's, their ace Sean Manaea was out for the season and they didn't really have any other great options to start the game. However, they did actually have other starting pitchers on the roster, and the starter didn't need to go 7 innings, but if he was able to pitch 4 to 5 solid innings, then turn it over to the bullpen, maybe the A's would have actually had a shot in that game. Now finally, let's consider the Milwaukee Brewers, who, in Game 5 of the National League Championship Series, so big-time baseball, they had Wade Miley start as a lefty specialist. He threw 5 pitches to the leadoff batter, power hitter left-hander Cody Bellinger. Miley walked him, and then exited the game so he could start Game 6. This was maybe the worst of the opener. Wade Miley is a starting pitcher, but the Brewers used him as a lefty specialist to just get 1 out to begin the game, and you couldn't even do that. Now, I actually have 2 reasons why the MLB needs starting pitchers. The first one's more of a marketing thing. To me, at least, in my opinion, one of the biggest problems with the MLB that I hear from non-baseball fans is that there just aren't enough superstars in baseball. Outside of guys like Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, and Aaron Judge, there aren't really many guys considered, quote, superstars. Now, myself as a big baseball fan, I think the MLB has plenty of superstars. But to the casual fan, it just seems like the MLB lacks significant star power. Now, of course, there are plenty of starting pitchers that are considered stars among league baseball fans. But just look at this postseason alone. For the Red Sox, their longest outing by a starting pitcher was 7 innings by Nathan Eovaldi in Game 3 of the ALDS. The Red Sox have played 9 games so far this postseason. Then for the Dodgers, the other team in the World Series, they've only had 2 pitchers go 7 innings or more. The Dodgers have played 11 games this postseason. The opener isn't necessarily the problem, but it's a strategy that is indicative of the way the MLB is moving, which is less length from starting pitchers. Now, recently, MLB teams kind of figured out that most teams will score the most runs when they face the starter for the 3rd time through the batting order. And that's why many teams now are just taking their starter out after 5 to 6 innings, because the manager or whoever believes that his team's starter is about to get hit really hard, give up some runs, and maybe cost his team the game. Now this year, there were 13 total pitchers that pitched at least 200 innings this season, and the leader, Max Scherzer, threw 220 and 2/3. As recently as just 2015, there were 28 pitchers in the major leagues who threw at least 200 innings, and the leader was Clayton Kershaw with 232 and 2/3. In 2014, there were 33 pitchers that pitched at least 200 innings, and the leading pitcher pitched 248 and 1/3 innings. you get the idea. The number of innings starting pitchers are throwing is only going down. Fewer guys are going deep into games, which is bad for baseball. As the number of relief pitchers goes up, the amount of offense goes down. Relievers historically are better at getting outs, specifically strikeouts, since they can give it all on every single pitch, since they're not expected to get more than 3 outs on average. Elite relievers historically have a lower whip, give up fewer hits per 9 innings, strike out more guys per 9 innings. They also walk more guys in 9 innings. And this coincides with the current game of baseball. Nowadays, many people refer to the quote, 3 true outcomes, which is a home run, a strikeout, or a walk. In today's game, there are fewer hits, but more home runs, more strikeouts, and more walks. When the pitchers pitching to these hitters are also better at striking out guys, but have a tendency to give up the long ball, or to give up a walk, these 3 true outcomes occur even more frequently than they usually do. And listen, for me, the most entertaining games I've ever watched are the ones where I felt like at any moment, a player could get a base hit and start a rally. Recently, I just feel like there's fewer of those games happening. In the postseason, however, there are far more games where I feel like the game is never over. For example, look at the 2017 World Series. In every single game between the Astros and Dodgers, especially Game 5, I felt like every hitter stepping up to the plate had a chance to get a hit and have an impact on the game with that one at-bat. So, the MLB doesn't need more starting pitchers, but it does need more starting pitchers going deeper into games. It's really about making the game more entertaining for the casual baseball fan. Now, since I'm a big baseball fan, I'm going to watch the games no matter what. However, if the MLB wants to attract more fans, specifically younger fans, getting more consistent length out of starting pitchers is one way to do that. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this edition of Courtside. Join me next time where I will talk more about the World Series, do another edition of Sports Theory, and more. And remember to follow at the Courtside Pod on Twitter, as well as to subscribe to the podcast wherever and however you are listening. Signing off, this is Andrew Cohen. I will see you next time.